Alright, welcome back to cooking my way through half a cow. Now on this week's episode, I'm going to be cooking the chuck steak out of that 1/8 box from Farmer to Fridge. Now a lot of people think chuck steak and they believe you get a whole piece and you cook it low and slow all day, or you dice it up and cook it all day in a stew, a casserole or a curry. And although those methods do work incredible and it will come out amazing, I'm going to show you that you can use chuck steak, which is not as expensive as some cuts, and you can dice it up, thread it onto some bamboo skewers and make some skewers cook on the barbecue that'll keep the whole family happy. Okay, to kick things off, you want to get your chuck steak and cut it out of the packet. Now at this point you can use paper towel to dry it off if you wish to, otherwise you can just pop it aside like I do and just pull them out individually and dice them up. And when it comes to dicing them up, this is completely up to you whether you want to go nice and small or fairly large. I'm going fairly standard size, about that 2 to 3 centimeter cubes, which is pretty standard for skewers or shazliks, but at the end of the day, you're going to do this to whatever you like or whatever suits your needs. If you're going to be adding vegetables, you might want to make them a little bit bigger, or you might want to go a bit smaller. When it comes to trimming up your steak while you dice it, you don't have to take off any fat at all. If there's excessive fat, cut it off. I did cut off a little bit of fat, but not an excessive amount. Over the course of the whole packet, I only cut off that little bit there that I'll end up feeding to my dogs. Now when it comes to marinating or seasoning your meat, I'm going nice and simple. I'm using some herbs out of the garden, so I've got some rosemary, some sage, and I'm going to use a bit of garlic that I'm going to dice up, and then just pepper and salt with some olive oil. I'm just going to mix those up by hand, toss them through like I'm kneading bread in that bowl, and then I'll put some cling wrap on it, throw it in the fridge, and leave it for about an hour or so before I actually put them on the skewers.
Pour savoir qui serait mangé, pour savoir qui serait mangé, ohé, ohé. Le sort tombe sur le plus jeune, le sort tombe sur le plus jeune. Le mousse qui se mit à pleurer, le mousse qui se mit à pleurer. On cherche alors à quelle sauce, on cherche alors à quelle sauce. Le pauvre enfant sera mangé, le pauvre enfant sera mangé, ohé, ohé.
It's been about an hour and a half since I marinated the meat and then put the bowl in the fridge, but by all means do this the day before. The longer you leave it, the more those flavors are going to enhance and really soak into the meat, but an hour and a half is ample for what I'm doing here. Now this is one of those handy tips that you would have heard in the past, and put your skewers into a bowl of water to absorb that water first. It'll stop them from burning, and that might be true, but that's not the reason I do it. I do it just to try and avoid any splinters coming off the skewer itself and into the meat. At the end of the day, I'm going to put these back in the fridge for another hour before I even cook them, so those skewers are going to dry out a fair bit by then, and I don't really think the water is going to stop them from burning on the barbecue. Okay, so once I'm all done and dusted, I'm not going to worry about cling wrapping them. I'm just going to put a bit more salt on them, bang them in the fridge for later. So it's dinner time now, and I'm going to throw them on the BBQ outside. Now, much like a steak, you can cook these medium rare. You don't have to cook them well done all the way through. For me personally, there's only 2 of us in the family that like things rare. The rest like it well done. So I've cooked them all the way through, bring them inside. Claire's cooked up some rice, some green veg, and she's made a homemade tzatziki sauce. So that's pretty much all we're gonna do. But for the kids, the only thing we're doing different is we're gonna pull the meat off the skewers just to make it a little bit tidier, less mess, less fuss for us at the end.